Well, my little experiment here failed. That fabric won't tighten up. It must be pre-shrunk because I heated it up twice to 250 and then to 350, and it wouldn't. It never moved. So we'll have to rip that off there and start over again. Get a good piece of fabric. Got my experimental piece there redone, and I didn't have any trouble with it this time. I used a fresh piece of polyfiber and glued on there, and it glued up just like it was supposed to. I let the polytack dry on it and set up on it, and then I shrunk it and put some polybrush on it. Right now I've got one of my vents, the seaplane grommet vents, on there, glued on with polytack, and I'm going to cut some doilies out to go over that and experiment with those to see if I can heat shrink them around there or what, exactly how to put those around there. Working on this seaplane grommet. This is the test piece here. This is the practice piece that they give you in the test kit, and the fabric all went on there real nice. I glued the grommet, the seaplane grommet, on with the polytack, and then made the doily and cut it out. And of course I put polybrush around everything and went to glue that down. It's got to have a slit in it here for the opening in the seaplane grommet, and it actually went better than I had expected. I tried this before and you couldn't get the doily to conform to the grommet very well. I thought maybe I was going to have to heat shrink it or something like that, and part of it to get it to come down anyway. And but I put that on there and started forming it, and it formed in pretty good. In fact, I even got it to conform here to the seaplane grommet and get a nice sharp edge around there, around the grommet, the seaplane grommet with the doily. So that's going to work pretty nice, I think, once we get those on and polybrushed and then coated over with poly spray in the finish color. I think it'll be pretty nice. This is what I'm doing for my doilies, for my seaplane grommets. I've got this roll of tape, and it's about 2 inches OD, and lay it down. I've got this extra, this piece of 3-inch fabric that I had left over, a 3-inch tape, and I've just drawn a circle around that, and then cutting that out with my pinking shears. And I went over this with polybrush and let it dry first. Anyway, I'm going to run out. I need 8 of those for that one horizontal stabilizer, so I'll need 16 for both of them, and then I'll need some for the rudder and some for the elevators, and then I'll need some for the fuselage. So I might as well cut out a bunch of them here while I'm doing it. I stretched out a little bit of plastic here, plastic wrap, and I'm going to go ahead and I used poly brush on these. It's a little bit thinner than, I have that thin polytack, and that worked okay, but the poly brush seems to work okay too, and it may, since it's thinner, it may, probably doesn't make any difference because it's all the same stuff, but I was just thinking it might glue down with the poly brush better. May melt the stuff a little better when you go to glue it down. The reason I was coating them with polybrush is they make nice sharp edges on that doily with the pinking shears, and there's no fraying or anything on it, just like when cutting the fabric. I just got thinking, I've got this piece of fabric here that I've already got coated with polybrush. There's no point in letting it go to waste. I've got the one grommet here that I tried out on there, but that don't make any difference. And we've got to have some inspection cover openings, and they recommend using a gallon bucket, a gallon can, for the pattern for the inspection holes. So you want to use pre-shrunk fabric. Now this stuff's pre-shrunk, which doesn't make any difference for the little seaplane grommets. But that's what you're supposed to use for the inspection cover grommets, or dollies, whatever the heck they're called. So I might as well cut this stuff out of those, and I can get, what do I do with my pattern? There it is. I can get some more seaplane grommets out of that too. So anyway, this will just come off by soaking it with a little bit of poly brush or some thinner reducer, so that doesn't hurt anything having that on there right now. In fact, I can reuse that. We got 2 of these big doilies cut out and 7 of the small ones so far out of this one piece that I got, and I got to thinking that I'm going to need some more of these. I'm going to need some more, of course, of these little round doilies for the seaplane drains, and I'm also going to need maybe a few more of these handhold cover ones, but I'm going to need some other reinforcement places on some other things, the landing gear attach fitting and the seaplane attach fitting, and of course the back, the handhold covers to get in to attach the elevators and the trim and stuff like that. So I might as well go ahead and glue up some more of this fabric, because it takes a while to glue up, and it's taken me a while to do this, so I might as well glue up some more fabric so it's ready to go when I need it. This is going to get me enough doilies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's going to get me enough for what I need now for these 2 horizontals, but I'm going to need quite a few more of these for the other things, like I said. And I'm going to have some fabric there that I've got on that saran wrap that I already poly brushed, but I might as well get some of this stuff that's pre-stretched. The larger reinforcements need to be pre-shrunk, not pre-stretched, but I might as well get those set up. I got the soldering iron out now. I'm going to poke some holes in my brand new fabric. This is for the seaplane drains, or for the drain holes. Measured up 1 inch from this spar, and then it'd be 1 inch from each one of these ribs here, and that'll be right on the line where these tapes went to. Seems kind of counterproductive to drill holes in it, but that's what we do. Okay, there it went. Okay, I got holes in my brand new fabric job. Well, now I get Polytack and glue those seaplane grommets on each one of these, and then I'll have to wait for it to set up before I make sure I get all the holes opened up good, because I want to make sure that water drains out of there. This thing sits downhill, of course, in the float on the dock, and they do anyway on wheels, and any water that collects in here has a tendency to run right back against these spars here. We want to make sure to get good drainage out of there. Now the other airframe, they just poked holes in there with soldering iron. They just had holes burnt in there on the wing and the fuselage and the structure, the horizontal stabilizers and stuff. When we redid the elevators before, we put seaplane grommets on them. Theoretically, that'll allow the air to siphon some of the water out of there when you're flying. So I got the seaplane grommets on there. They're little just plastic grommets. I've showed them before, and I used a pair of, we called them sizers. I got this pair when I was in the Air Force, and they called them sizers, or forceps, I guess. But anyway, they're really handy for holding on to small parts and stuff. I've got that second horizontal stabilizer all glued up now I formed that leading edge and I cut it. I've just got it glued up with polytack. I just set it over out of the way now to let that set up. I marked some more doilies on the two frames that I had set up. I took the gallon can and I marked, I think, 7 more doilies. I got 4 on one and 3 on the other, and then some more of the round dollar patches, the 2-inch patches. I tore those off. I didn't cut them out yet. I just tore them off and put them over with the rest of the fabric out of the way, and then I glued some more fabric up on those 2 frames. I've got those sitting over there with the polytack, letting it set up. Right now I've got this first horizontal stabilizer, and I just took the tape roll there and drew some lines around each one of these seaplane grommets. So I'll take my little 1/2-inch brush and brush some poly brush around each one of those, and then let that set up, and then start putting those little grommets on, those little doilies on there, dollar patches on there. I've got my setup over there with a poly brush. Got one little mixing cup has got MEK in it with the 2 brushes that I've been using for both the poly brush and the polytack, the 2-inch brush and the 1-inch brush, and then the little artist brush beside that that's a 1/2 inch or something like that. And then I've got my doilies, my little dollar patches there on the horizontal stabilizer. So go ahead and start doping those up and get ready to put those on. Got all the seaplane grommets and the little doilies installed on this horizontal stabilizer. I'll let them cure and then wipe them down a little bit to get the it took quite a bit of work and time to get those seated in there right, to get everything glued down to where it's in the right spot, glued down all the way because of the complex shape on there. So the stuff dries a little bit and it gets kind of balled up on there. I'll need to go over that with some reducer before we cover that up, but otherwise they all look pretty good. Wasn't sure whether to put those on first, to put the finishing tape over this edge first and then put these over the top, or put the these on and then put the finishing tape on top over that. These things look pretty cool with those round patches on there. They would have looked pretty good on the outside of the finishing tape, but finishing tape will help hold them down, I guess. So anyway, I got them down first, and we'll clean those up, and then I can put the finishing tape on that bottom spar. That's it for tonight.